Despite being gay, Prince Filipe of France married twice and earned the nickname Grandfather of Europe, due to his direct descendants later holding numerous powerful positions across continents, including two queens of Spain, the Queen of Sardinia, Regent Filipe II, and King Louis Philippe, the last monarch of France. When Louis XIII ascended the throne in 1610, he was considered a wise king. But he and Queen Anne failed to produce a male heir. This not only strained their relationship, but also put pressure on the royal court. It wasn't until 1638, 23 years after their marriage, that Queen Anne gave birth to the long-awaited heir, Louis XIV, who was immediately designated as the successor to the throne. Just 2 years later, another prince was born, Philippe. King Louis XIII was thrilled, never imagining that he would father two strong sons. However, Queen Anne had a different perspective. While she still loved her children as any mother would, the existence of a second son of the same royal lineage was seen as a threat and a potential cause for civil war. After Louis XIII's death, Louis XIV became Louis XIV at the age of 9 and was showered with love by his regent mother, Anne. Meanwhile, Filipe was treated very strangely, as both his mother and key figures such as Mazarin feared his position following the treacherous actions of Duke Gaston, Louis XIII's brother. Anne, the regent, often dressed Filipe in women's clothing, even calling him her little daughter. She showed clear favoritism toward Louis, subtly disregarding Filipe. Historians note that Anne did everything she could to protect her second son, while preventing him from becoming a rival to his elder brother. Despite being recognized as naturally intelligent, Filipe was only properly educated as a teenager. Mazarin even deliberately tried to make Filipe weak and effeminate. After Mazarin's death in 1661, Louis XIV took full control and married the Spanish princess. Filipe thought he would now be free to live as he pleased, but Louis XIV continued the policies of Mazarin and his mother, consistently belittling Philippe's status. Louis XIV bestowed the title of Duke of Orleans to Filipe, but stripped away most of the accompanying wealth, forcing him to rely on the royal income. Furthermore, Filipe was forced to marry two women he did not love for political purposes. While married to his first wife, Princess Henrietta of England, Filipe had several same-sex lovers. He continued his affair with the infamous Count Comte de Guiche and began a relationship with Chevalier de Lorraine after meeting him in 1668. Interestingly, Princess Henrietta sought revenge by seducing Count Comte de Guiche, a bisexual man. In 1670, Princess Henrietta unexpectedly passed away. Filipe was saddened, but finally felt liberated. However, with only 2 daughters and still young, Louis XIV pressured him into marrying again, this time to Elizabeth Charlotte, a German princess. Fortunately, this second marriage was more successful, as Elizabeth Charlotte was older and indifferent to her husband's sexuality. Their union produced 3 children, 2 sons and 1 daughter. Filipe was forced into submission and had no political influence. His life was controlled by his 2 wives. In retaliation, Filipe publicly displayed his preferences, often in front of Louis XIV and his mother. This behavior brought scandal to the royal family, but it gave Filipe satisfaction seeing the angered faces of his brother and mother. In simple terms, Filipe got his revenge by living openly as a gay man in the 17th century. Today, homosexuality is recognized as natural and legal in many countries around the world. However, during the medieval period in Europe, where religion, specifically Roman Catholicism, dominated all aspects of life and held power over royalty, homosexuality was seen as sinful and heretical. It was rarely discussed and was equated with crimes such as masturbation and bestiality, with the highest punishment being death. Among the nobility, homosexuality was seen as disgraceful. It wasn't unheard of, but it was mostly kept secret and only mentioned in private correspondence. For common people, the situation was far worse, and they could even be burned at the stake for their homosexual tendencies. Filipe, on the other hand, was unapologetically open. He frequently dressed as a woman and appeared publicly with his same-sex lovers, even incorporating them into his family. For Louis XIV, this was a source of embarrassment, but he could not expel Filipe from the royal family or have him burned alive. Filipe had been attracted to men since he was young. His mother, Anne, forbade him from meeting Count Comte de Guiche after discovering the nature of their relationship. They continued to be involved until Filipe finally decided to make their relationship public. The royal family was furious, as Count Comte de Guiche exerted influence over Philippe, despite holding a lower rank. According to historians, Philippe's greatest love was not Guiche, but Chevalier de Lorraine. During the war with Spain, Filipe first took on a military leadership role, where he met the young and beautiful Chevalier, who was equally talented. Chevalier de Lorraine was bisexual, but saw Filipe as an ideal stepping stone to power and wealth. For decades, Chevalier had absolute influence over Filipe and kept control of his residences. On many occasions, Filipe dressed as a woman at parties he attended with Chevalier. Their relationship was so scandalous that Henriette conspired with her brother to have Chevalier exiled to Italy. Filipe was devastated by this, but Chevalier returned to France after Filipe's second marriage to Elizabeth. Throughout his second marriage, Filipe was completely devoted to Chevalier and other same-sex lovers, lavishing them with money. Filipe's life marked a turning point in LGBTQ history, as he was the only royal family member in the 17th century to live openly without facing severe consequences. While his family was uncomfortable, Filipe never truly faced significant consequences for his homosexuality, aside from Chevalier's exile. Philippe's father, King Louis XIII, was rumored to be homosexual. However, even if it were true, it was hidden, and he did not display the femininity that Filipe did. Instead, Louis XIII was known to be quiet and austere. Filipe was a man with many natural gifts: charm, attractiveness, intelligence, and a brilliant military mind. However, the political atmosphere of the time trapped him in a life with little freedom. Filipe was dominated by his brother and denied any political position. He was humiliated by his mother and Cardinal Mazarin as a child to protect Louis. Louis was the supreme and absolute ruler of France, leaving Filipe neglected and insulted. Despite this, Filipe found ways to get back at his family and assert the freedoms he could as a French prince. Filipe was one of the few people in Europe at the time who could live openly as gay without fear of expulsion, legal trouble, or even execution, as the laws of the time prescribed.